meeting to order. Thank you for coming this evening. We have the agenda in front of us. Is there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. September 21st minutes. Were there any corrections or additions?
Move approval.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, Toad. First order of business is a conditional rezoning for Mountain Rentals LLC for the Rolling Rock Lodge. And Brian, if you can bring us up to date.
Good evening, board. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight. I think we're missing Cat. We never did hear from Cat, but we still got quorum. We're good. First thing on the agenda tonight, I got the staff report pulled up. Mountain Rentals LLC. This is conditional rezoning number 2023-01. Request is a conditional rezoning from general business, which is the current zoning on the property that's actually located in the current ETJ. The request is from general business to a conditional rezoning of general business specific to this property. Mountain Rentals LLC, which I think we've got the two gentlemen here representing us tonight. I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. Mike True, their engineer, is here as well. Requesting the general rezoning of the property. The purpose of the rezoning and the annexation, which we've, the first process of an annexation is to take it to council for approval to move forward, investigate, set a public hearing for the process. That was done at the previous council meeting last week. Approved to move on. Next step is to, and I'll explain why we're doing a conditional rezoning here, but the main reason they're seeking annexation is to connect to town utilities. Currently, the property's on well and septic as it sits now. They are in the ETJ, but part of annexation and town code requires you to annex into the corporate limits to connect to any town utilities, water and sewer. Another step part of that is previously the water service in the area was only served by an interconnect between the town of Boone and town of Boiling Rock. Previously, the agreement was to that there was no connections allowed on the outside of the corporate limits. That got changed, and a new agreement was put in place that it can be used and connected to. But one of the conditions of the agreement was the property had to be subject to a conditional rezoning, site-specific conditional rezoning. So that's why we're in this process to acquire the conditional rezoning for the property. It'll remain general business. It'll just be site-specific general conditional zoning and general business. The applicant has indicated, and they can tell you a little bit more about the property and their history of their ownership in a moment, but they've indicated there's no redevelopment proposed at this time for the property. They're mainly seeking utilities, specifically sewer at this time, because of a failing septic system on the property. So they're requesting water and sewer connect, which both of those are available near the property there. They will be required, if this is approved, to submit engineered plans for the connection of the utilities as they proceed with that. So the current site, this is in your packet, but it's pretty small. If we need to zoom in, just let me know. This is the current site as it sits today. It is located in the existing town's extraterritorial jurisdiction, ETJ. The current use of the property and the way we will accept it is it's used for long-term multifamily, long-term rentals now. It's an allowed use. With properties like this being annexed in, you will have a lot of non-conforming situations come in with a property like this. That's not bad, it's just the nature of bringing one and annexing in. The site currently contains multiple structures. This is the main building you see from the road, and that's where most of the long-term rentals are in now. And then there's these two basic single-family dwelling houses here. My understanding, they're pretty much occupied. Everything's occupied on the property. Total square footage of the main building, 7,245 square feet. It does have 22 apartments in it, long-term rental, and then the two single-family dwelling units that you see. No access issues. You typically access off of 321 onto what's called the old 321. So there's two accesses into it currently. The parking, 36 existing spaces. I think we put a note in there, staff hadn't confirmed if they're to ordinance requirements, but they do have 36 spaces at this time. There's no stormwater on the property. This has obviously always been in the county, so there's never been a requirement for that. That could be an issue if it's ever redeveloped in the future. So for the connection of the utilities itself, the applicant is responsible for the cost of those connections. Staff put in a couple conditions to try to bring the property in with as less nonconformities as we can bring it in. I've got several of those listed in the staff report. One is garbage collection, garbage enclosure. Number two is signage. And the third is landscape. And these are minor things that staff feels like we can get into compliance if the applicant agrees to it. And at least get some of that cleaned up and get some of those nonconformities off. So that's the basis of it. I mean, we're here tonight to get a consensus of any conditions, recommendations, approval. This will be heard at the next November town council meeting for approval, disapproval. Other than that, there may be a lot of questions. I'd be glad to answer that. If you want to wait and let the applicants provide any input, we can do that, but open to any questions or any clarifications on anything.
Any questions for Brian at this time?
Just real quick. Understand the conditional rezoning is required between the agreements between Blowing Rock and Boone. Is the applicant looking for any other relief from the statutes of the general business zoning?
Is there any
are they looking for any other relief? In other words, because I mean, obviously, a conditional is going to allow you to gain relief from other zoning requirements. Are you looking at any other potential points of relief, say with landscaping or with parking spaces, that sort of thing?
Those are the main ones and quick ones we can deal with. Parking's based on typically the use that's in the project itself. Those are typically for long-term or multi-family, it's per bedroom. So they've, you know, as it currently exists, they've probably got adequate parking for those 36 spaces. So I don't think that's a need we need to worry about at this point. If it ever redevelops, that'll obviously be addressed. So I don't think that's an issue with the current use that's in there. You know, the use is allowed, and that's the use that'll be tied to this property coming in. If anything, gentlemen sell, they want to redevelop, it would come back to us to go through a conditional permit, which would be another process within itself to make sure, you know, that they would basically decide on the use
Okay, so,
for that moving forward.
so my understanding is this is just a conditional zoning for utilities only.
Correct.
Okay.
No intention of redevelopment. Now, a new use comes in and proposed,
Mhm.
then we would bring the current ordinance into compliance at that time. Everything. But we're just trying to get some of the lower things that we can, you know, work on, clean the property up, get rid of some of these small hanging fruit that's out there and clean it up and go ahead and meet these things. But all that would be reassessed at any other point of if it's redeveloped.
Okay, thank you.
The interconnect agreement was, I want to say, about a year ago, an agreement come back through, and that was just one of the conditions that Boone wanted on the interconnect was to have more of a site-specific plan for that property. The general business has obviously got the widest range of possible uses there. That's not saying whatever comes back can have free reign of any of those uses. It would be a site-specific use that they would bring back and basically go back through the same process.
Okay.
The applicants want to make any comment? Or the engineer?
I'm Michael True with Municipal Engineering. We'll be doing we did the plan and helped him with the application. And I think Brian did a good job covering everything if you have any questions, but the bottom line is their septic field is failing. They need to get on sewer. And so they're going to go through the town's process and be able to get water and sewer and get, which will be better for the environment and better in the long run for them. And it'll be good. I believe it'll be a good addition to the town. And I think they're providing a good service by having long-term rentals for people that live around here and work around here. And that's something that's hard to come by. So bringing that into the town, I think, will be a benefit. They do have one of the conditions is the addition of a dumpster, and I'll let them talk about it a little bit more in depth if you have any questions. But they had a dumpster before, and it was very problematic. They had a lot of the surrounding neighborhoods and coming and dumping their trash, throwing it over the fence and whatnot, and so they got rid of it. And since the convenience center is just a quarter of a mile down the road, they have the residents take their trash down there, and that's worked out fine for them. And so they would like to continue that. And Brian had a good idea, is that you guys could add a condition onto your approval or your recommendations that if in the future trash became an issue, then they would be required to add a dumpster or to address it at that time, which seems very logical.
Where are they tying on the sewers? The pump station?
They are coming down right below the pump station. There's a gravity line on top of them. So they're gonna. This is where it's my understanding their sewer is underneath this parking lot. It's failing. They're gonna bring it out of the building here and here, and then bring it down and tie it into this manhole. I think this manhole gravity serves into the pump station, and then it's pumped back to town.
Okay.
And then the water line, the 12-inch water line comes along old 321, and they're gonna tap it right here and bring it in and have their service right there.
So Brian had said that
makes sense because of the age. There's not a current, contemporary anyway, stormwater management system there, but there's water on this, like drainage on the site, right? And my question, I guess, is, are there any drainage problems? Because I assume because of the pond, there wouldn't be, but.
You mean like the big rains? That's anything.
In a sense, they have somewhat of a stormwater system since they have a pond, because it does. Ponds and lakes, they are sediment basins, that's what they are. They collect sediment, so they have that. And then if that property ever is redeveloped, then they'll have to meet the town's current stormwater standards and provide some storm detention.
All I would say with it's not even an issue, but with the trash, we had it for about, I think, probably 6, we've owned it for 14 years, maybe the first 6 years, and it was, people coming down Skeet Crest Park, they would just throw stuff all around it, sometimes in it, and it was just a mess. And I thought, can we get rid of this? And just tell them to take it right there, and since we haven't had any trash problems, so it's just worked better that way.
We're fine to pay for it,
Yeah.
I'm sure. We just tried that as a strategy to try to get people to quit throwing their trash around. And it did clean it up. Our tenants didn't really seem to mind. It's single occupant, light occupancy, and so they just take it down to but if y'all would like for us to put one in, we're glad to give it a shot again. Or we'd be glad to have it written in, and we could do it later if it became a problem. It's not an issue for us either way.
Any issues with emergency services?
No, it was sent to police and fire and other departments. I think the police chief is, I think he is requesting records from the county sheriff's department. They're the ones that service this now. Just how an ETJ works, and ETJ, your land use ordinance applies to that property. We have a land use ordinance control over it, but we don't have police powers, some limited things from the town code there. So when this is brought in, obviously we'll inherit the police powers and all of that as well. But other than that, and I think the police chief alluded, they hadn't had major problems out there. But we will be probably getting a report and sending it to council on that respect. But we had no comments from them.
What's the expected duration of the project?
They could probably do that in a week. I'd probably give them 2 weeks to do the ties, weather dependent, but it should go pretty fast.
So minimal disruption.
Yeah, yeah. They'll do the water tap. They'll get that in a day. They'll get that in and get it covered back up, get that road operational. And then the sewer should be just a trench. So I don't think it'll take long at all.
You might be interested, you were saying the long-term rental being good for the area.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of tenants there for 3, 4, 5, 7 years.
Can you come on up here and
Sure.
so Taylor can get you on record with your
Sure.
name and everything? Sorry,
No problem.
just so she's not guessing.
Sure.
Well,
I'm David Kennedy. Yeah. One of the 2 owners of Mountain Rentals. But just our tenants have really liked being there. We tell them that we don't want students, no offense to students, but I think there's a place for people who work in the area that need a place to live, that it's quiet. We have quiet hours from 10 p.m. To 6 a.m. As part of our community guidelines. So it's gone very well. People like living there. They've lived there for a long time, a lot of them. So a low-cost option in the area.
We always hear about the need for workforce housing, and that made me think about that.
Yeah,
That's
right.
probably a good fit. For
Yeah.
You said most of your folks are employed.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We get some graduate students because it's a quiet place and they don't want to be where all the students are. I'd say it's more graduates. Probably most of them work. Yeah. They're working around here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Motion?
You Anyone else from the
Well, I
public?
guess comment or question before we do the motion. The signage, and maybe I should have asked this to everyone, the signage and landscaping conditions that Brian has talked about as the applicant, how do you all feel about those?
I don't know what's required in that front, but I'm fine with working with you too.
I think what we would, the sign ordinance has certain size requirements. We would just need to assess the signs, see where they are size-wise. And probably the biggest thing is the maintenance of them. Maybe do some refurbishing maintenance-wise. Landscaping, I think it's just, I don't think there's a lot that's needed. Typically, we have buffers on properties, outside buffers. A lot of that's probably already met. There could be some street requirements for landscaping, which I don't think there's much there. So there's some dead trees on the property, just looking at things like that, maybe getting cleaned up. So nothing major in my opinion. But that's something we can sit down and agree upon.
So, thank you. So comment-wise before motion, just I think the staff working with the applicant about signage and landscaping, it would be great to have those in conformance as it's coming in. And I think from my perspective, the way the applicant described the dumpster situation is probably a better way to go. Not put it in now, but if it's a problem in the future,
Leave the door open.
yeah, that's my comment.
You may have someone from the public out here that may be willing to speak, but.
Willing to speak?
Please. Yeah.
My name is Nick Bovino, and that's my mother, and she has been a resident above on the hill, above the property, Crest Park. And first, I just want to say they've been excellent neighbors. I mean, as far as the rentals, it's been quiet, and the aesthetics, I think, look better than they ever have. But the only question I really have is the existing well. What would become of it once the water is tied in to the tank? Because the well is on my mother's property. Would that be shut off?
Does it service her?
It does not service us. It services the hotel.
So the health department has they would have to approach the Watauga County Health Department. They have a process for whether they abandon it or not. There's an abatement process, I believe.
Okay. So that's a county.
So it would be addressed through the county health department.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Would you mind, what address are you at? Just for the
It's
record.
143 Ski Crest Park.
Okay.
We didn't use your trash.
Any other comments?
I think I would just say that you all serve a need. And I went through there this morning and took a really good slow look, and it's like my lawn. There's some things that could be picked up. There's some things that could be put away. There's a couple of limbs that could be trimmed, but overall it's clean, and it was well kept. And there were a few cars there. Most people were probably at work that time of the morning. That's probably 10 o'clock when I was there. But I commend you for serving a special need in this community that is we talk about workforce housing a lot, and it's hard to make all that pencil and work financially and yet serve your residents or the folks that are living there. So I commend you for the service to the community, and wish we had more of it.
So I'd make a motion to recommend approval with the signage and landscaping, preferring to bring that into compliance along with the approval process, and then leaving the option open in the future that if there's a problem with the trash to the dumpster may be required of the applicant at that time.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you,
Right.
Take care.
Next item on the agenda is a continued discussion about dumpster screening.
About dumpsters. Not the most glamorous subject.
But somebody did an
Will.
inventory of them.
Do we have an inventory?
We covered the town like a do, didn't we?
Exciting.
I credit Taylor for a lot of it.
Should have had some of us go along with you.
I would encourage y'all to maybe take that venture sometime. You learn a lot about the nooks and crannies of your town. For better or for worse. So this was brought to us previously 2 months ago, I believe. I think there was a consensus to move forward. But I think there was a question there, what's out there, what are we really looking at? So we did an inventory, and Taylor, you can correct me and jump in whenever. We did an inventory of about 100 properties or so. Commercial, multifamily, and all of downtown here. The majority of them's in our downtown area here. What we found was about 75% of them's in compliance. I think the numbers we were looking at, and I failed to put the total number in there, but we had about 100 sites we looked at. So there's 20 or 30 sites that don't have a dumpster, or the enclosures need a lot of work, maintenance, which that can actually be addressed under our current ordinance, because we've got a section for maintenance of current screening and enclosures. One big thing that we did see, and I think it's just something that's happened over time, is rollouts seem to be the bigger problem out there. And I think people just maybe have an increased need for trash over time, and well, let's just add another rollout. So we just saw a lot of those that was sitting randomly out there. It seemed to be the bigger problem. So it was across the board what we saw. Wasn't as bad as I obviously anticipated. And a lot of them that don't have it was probably just pre-ordinance, older properties. Just was, wasn't under any requirements to provide them at the time. So that's the ones that's probably going to be, probably looked at first, helping trying to get something out there. So on the second page of that staff report, we have some proposed language there. Basically, what we're looking at is there's two sections of the ordinance. We have a section in the commercial design and appearance section. Then we have a section also in utilities. So we've tried to cover both of those to meet. At some point, maybe we roll them into one. But we put a date of November 1st, 2024, which is a year. And that's up for discussion. Me and Kevin discussed that. Kevin felt like, let's get on with it. Let's try to get these things into compliance. Probably the bigger burden is the ones that don't have them. Because typically with these enclosures, if you don't have a good concrete pad, you're required to have a good concrete pad for them, for the dumpster and for the truck itself. Typically with amortization, there's no issues with amortization. A lot of times you just weigh what you're trying to get into compliance. You weigh the cost burden of those types of things on how many years you try to set to amortize it and get it into compliance. Maybe if we had the whole town needed to do this, we maybe set a larger time for it. But that's up for discussion. I mean, that's for us to discuss here. If we feel comfortable with 1 year, if council approves this, then we'll notify everyone that may be out of compliance and speak with them and get a game plan for them. We'll shoot for November 1st of next year.
So the folks that currently aren't in compliance, they don't necessarily know that they're not in compliance, they've not been told yet?
Not besides the public hearing and the meetings we've
Okay,
advertised.
perfect, okay.
And you did mention that some of them don't have concrete pads as well.
I don't know if we come up with a number with that, but there's probably 10 of them out there maybe. There's not a lot that don't have any. I think going back, I think that the biggest thing was trying to figure out how to contain some of these rollouts. A lot of places had dumpster enclosures, and maybe it's just a matter of getting them to contain them in there instead of just, hey, it's easy, let's go throw them out here. So we can just kind of assess that and work with the property owners when we get there. See what the best solution based on the property. And some of them may be a challenge, honestly, to, if they don't have a dumpster screen or a location, you know, we would have to work with, probably get some input from the dumpster provider to see what might be best for access into these, because a lot of them are tight. And we would just have to try to find the best location there, and then we would just have to, you know, go from there. Some of these sites are tight.
Are there any of them that are like that, that have parking also, that it may impede their parking?
I'm sure there will be a few, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that's where maybe the rollouts is the solution. A lot of people do that. Now, they do provide, depending on who your provider is, they do have different size of dumpsters that they can provide, whether it's, you know, the big roll up from the front end, or they have some that can be loaded from the rear. It's a little bit smaller dumpster. I think that's just something we'll assess with the need they have in the space that's available there.
Part of the effect of this would be that the places that are using, say, a dozen rollouts that are just not screened,
Right.
they can keep the rollouts, they just have to get them in an enclosure.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we're not saying thou must have dumpster, we're saying screen it.
Right. Just the whole basis of this is to, and maybe even some of the ones that we inventoried may not have an enclosure, but they could be using one somewhere else or have an agreement with someone else. So that may be the situation that they don't need it. Rollouts probably really not going to need a concrete pad per se, just depending on what's there. We'll just have to assess and see what's there.
It just needs fencing, really.
I think the big things, you know, a lot of people think it's just to hide it, which, okay, it is to partly screen, but it's also to keep trash contained.
And to keep
We're always talking about bears.
And keep animals out of it, right?
And that seems to be one of the things that spurred this, was just keeping these areas contained a little bit better.
Sure.
From a parent standpoint, trash standpoint.
But we're not dictating what kind of receptacle they have. I mean,
That's based on their use. It's
Absolutely.
based on
their need.
their garbage consumption, you know, what they need.
It looks like at some point, it would be more expensive to build an enclosure for 12 rollouts than it would be to build one for a dumpster.
Yeah.
So there's an economy of scale there
Right.
at some point.
I think dumpsters is one of those situations that it gets used, but it's never thought about screening or how many do I need? All of a sudden, well, we need more, so we'll just call and get more rollouts. I don't think it's ever really assessed from a close standpoint. It's just one of those forgotten things.
Well, it certainly matters is from an appearance standpoint, from a safety standpoint, from a sanitary standpoint, and just being a good neighbor and containing your trash. I mean, that's just part of your responsibility, and I think that's important. But we're not even mandating the types of screening. We just say screening, right?
But it would go back to our section of the ordinance that it requires it to be compatible with the
materials.
property, the
Right.
materials and things like that. Yeah. Typically, you'll see wooden enclosures painted or stained similar. And I think we'd be open to low cost, something that's effective.
You need a motion? For the
Need a
amendment?
motion. I think we'll take this to council next month. I think
if y'all have the blessing, if you can make a motion, I think we'll go from there.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation presented and send it on to council?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Any other business?
I can probably give a few updates. Maybe one thing that's on my mind, and I apologize to Brooks, first of all, for, there was some training available and I dropped the ball. On that note, if there's training available, is that something that this board would be up for? Now, what that training is, I don't know. I think what we were looking at was contentious public meetings or how to deal with,
How to deal.
Tactfully deal with someone?
Tactfully and respectfully with those that differ with your points of view. And I thought that would be a good one to maybe. But, yes, I mean, obviously, I'm very interested in that. So anything that's offered, I'll do everything I can to take advantage of.
and those are things that we can, the School of Government they're great with those things. If there's topics that's not on there, they'll accommodate you fairly quickly with it. We typically can do a group as a whole when we register these. We just had one for the Board of Adjustment, and we did it online here in the chambers here. And everybody, I think, was pleased to do it.
I think it's a good idea. Anything we can do to better serve our community, I am all for that. And, you think about it and you bring your life experience to the table, but there's no orientation and training. And I really haven't thought about that till this second, but I'm all for it.
Sometimes it's a lot to take in. And
Yeah, there is. Well, you just have to learn. You have to sit and
Sure.
learn.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it.
I think that's something we can definitely get on the radar here soon. And we'll feed you lunch. I mean, that usually gets people
If
here.
I don't have to drive to Durham, I'll bring lunch.
That's a good idea.
So we'll keep that on the radar. Don't have a lot of updates. I'm trying to think of, Embers is rolling along. I think they're going to be, they're wrapping up site work. There'll be, we've been working with Ron Cutlip, our local landscape architect, with a plan, and they hopefully will be starting that in the next few weeks. He's done a pretty good job at the front of the landscape in there, but they're getting close. I don't know if they're opening this fall or it's going to be spring. I'm anticipating probably spring, but I don't know. I think the leaf season's already probably passed them up, but they're rolling along. El Rincon has, I keep calling it El Rincon, but it's 870 Main Street. They've pretty much completed the project, short terms, second, third floors. They've got a couple, I think, tenants looking at the restaurant now. I think everyone will be pleased with that when it happens. Nothing in writing yet, but so they're rolling along. And I guess you've noticed the sidewalk project, tying everything in down through there. They're trying to get that complete as well. There's a for sale sign on the old coffee shop. I guess, if anyone has seen that, I think the owner has kind of passed that buck off, looking to sell that property. I think he is still in the hunt for a property himself for a similar use possibly. Just FYI, that use will run with that property, whoever picks it up, unless they look at something different, and that will come back before us to amend that tight side. I don't know what it would be, but something may come.
Amazed at how well that one in Boone's going.
Oh,
By the
Lord.
time you go by there, there's 20 cars.
That was kind of scaring me if that one happened out there, because it could be a backup as well. But, those are popular now. What am I missing, Taylor? She's got a pulse on a lot of things happening.
Talking about it earlier, but the parking on 321.
Yeah, there's the
Our new surface lot?
Yeah. Our new grass. sustainable surface lot. It was just a trial run for the busy weekend this weekend and next. It's also put a sign out there, free public parking, see how it goes. We'll reassess it in a couple of weeks and see how it's doing. Be interesting to see if people really want to walk. I think in busy times they probably will, but
They have no choice but to walk.
have no choice. Like I said earlier, parades, they're looking at places down that way, so it could be a
I can see July
positive
4th that being packed.
Christmas parade.
Christmas parade being packed, yeah.
So I think it could be utilized at that point, but it was a trial run. We- Scotchman, so they're still trying to move forward. Last conversations we had with them was, they were looking at some not bad personal finances. I think it was a savings type thing he was looking at from some standpoint. I don't know, I won't go into it, but their clock is ticking on their 2 years. We did issue a demo permit last year for them to start demo on the building, and that was at the time they were planning on using the existing shell there, but once they demoed, that changed. Basically, they were going to take it down and rebuild it. Basically, the same footprint, same building elevations, and everything was the same there. So that was really wasn't a major change to bring back, but they just decided, hey, it's better to take it down and rebuild. But we'll probably know more within the next month because their time's ticking and they'll be making some decisions there. So.
And Ann Furr's building, where are we with that?
So Ann is, she is working with building contractors now, getting quotes, getting pricing. Well, she don't have a use that I know of yet.
So the High Country
But
Express is not moving in there.
I don't think so. But she's trying to get, I think, just a lump sum package of getting the building renovated and doing everything at one time. But she's actively working on it. We just spoke to her a couple weeks ago. I think when you get to those numbers and you start exploring that's when people's eyes start, wow, because it's a different ballgame in the construction world right now.
Totally. Sidco still coming along?
We anticipate them to move in anytime.
I noticed it looked like it's close to finished on the work.
Yeah, so, I don't know a time frame on that, but as far as we know, it should be fairly soon.
This isn't major, but if anybody was just curious about it, Roadie's, the bike shop is moving. They're not gonna be on Sunset anymore. They're moving to Valley Boulevard next to Sweet Mimi's. They're gonna be in that, they're doing some renovations in there, but they're moving that business.
Is there any truth to the rumor that the daycare center on Valley Boulevard was gonna use the old Papa Joe's building? Or expand?
I think that was the original idea, but they haven't moved on that.
Okay, so there's
Not at this moment.
no proposals on your desk?
Single family, still wide open. New homes, renovations. It's probably keeping us the busy of anything right now. Don't know where they're finding the lots, but they're finding it in the building. But it's busy, it's good thing.
What's happening with the Story Street property, the one where they were gonna do the bar next door to their restaurant? Is that still?
I think it's still in the plans.
Okay.
I did have a call from one of the local architects with the signage, so I think they're trying to get a whole package here soon and get going on that. What she's referring to is, I don't remember what was over there, a beauty shop
Was that
or
a soap
something.
store?
But they also did
This is
hair.
next door.
Yeah,
Next
they
door,
do hair.
same building next door.
Same building next door?
Yeah,
Yeah.
directly
Okay.
next door, yep.
It was where they were, people would stand out and hand samples out, almost like a temporary tenant
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, we already was that. But it's cardboarded up, but their intent is to expand into that side at some point.
That, yeah, for restaurants, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we'll try to sign that permit as quick as we can to get some restaurants expanded there. But, I think that's about all. I mean, it's busy.
So just all the way back to the beginning, the little, at Sunset and 321, that little postage stamp of a site, and I mean, I know it got approved for the coffee thing. There had to be a time on that site plan approval, right? I mean, that goes away in 2 years, doesn't it? Or sometime. Not the zoning, but just the particular use goes away, right?
If you don't begin the use, yeah.
It's 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And we've got to be coming up on that.
Those were about the same time. They were right before I got here, and it's been about the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just seems like a long time.
Is that 18 months, 16 months?
You're automatically vested for 2 years
2
on
years.
those.
Yes.
You can
But it's
request
like
more.
16 months has gone by.
And it has to, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been about 16 months.
That's what I was
It
thinking
seems like it's
roughly.
been-
Yeah, that's what it feels, I think that's what it feels like.
Yeah, okay, okay.
I don't
Any
know.
movement on the property on Valley Boulevard after you turn right off of Main Street that was grandfathered in, I believe, as a short-term rental? It started back, I think, in January or February.
Out towards the golf course.
Yeah, going out, after you turn
Derek.
right off of Main
They're-
Street.
Derek Land.
Yeah, they've been permitted for the short-term rental. They're doing renovations.
Yeah,
And,
there are work vehicles just kind of off the hill if you look really closely there.
you know, one of their conditions with that being a non-conforming is, you know, they can't expand out bedrooms and things like that, but they're just doing interior renovations.
So they
cosmetic
did
work.
not, so they did not
They're
go
just
use it.
renovating existing buildings there. Yeah. But yeah, they're moving along. But we do have, I think, some more busy work coming up.
Good.
Couple good projects, I think. Open house. I think a few of you are on the subcommittee, but there's an open house for the draft comprehensive plan. Plan Blowing Rock? Yeah. It's on the website.
That's Town Hall 4 to 6, 4 to 7?
It's
4 to 6.
4 to 6. It'll be here.
What day?
30th.
October 30th, Monday.
I think I said 7 today.
I think they've got a good product for us. I think the subcommittee's been well pleased with the progress so far, so.
That link is, I assume is a public link now, that you can go and look at the draft, it's there?
Yeah, you can download it.
Yeah, okay.
So spread that word if you can. Other than that, that's all I've
Done.
got.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
You're the motion man.
I must be, I'm, let's not be bashful here.